Niner faithful and fans of the Niner Station, welcome back to our second broadcast in a long time. It's great to see you guys, and thank you for those that are still with us and listening. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our new YouTube channel as we are trying to gain popularity and see what we can do as we're spreading the word of the 49er faithful and talking a little bit more in our own opinions, a little bit different than the media. But hey guys, how you guys been doing? Let's kick it off. What's happening in the 49er world?
Yeah, I've been doing good, Tommy. 49er world, a lot of news is finally starting to kick up now. We're starting to see a lot of topics coming through now, and it's officially football season, and I'm happy to talk about it with you two boys. But obviously, the big news of today is Brandon Aiyuk reporting to training camp. We were talking about it last week. Mark, kudos to you for totally calling what Brandon Aiyuk was likely going to do, where his head was likely at. So you want to kind of talk about Aiyuk reporting to camp?
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. I hope you guys are hanging in there through these hot summer days in California. And the Niners are getting to practice here tomorrow. They reported today, and what do you know? Brandon Aiyuk shows up because who wants to pay $100,000 fine every day you don't show up, right? Especially when you're trying to make as much money as possible. So he's going to show up. He's going to kind of get mental reps. And I just had a gut feeling because, why put yourself through not showing up, being a distraction, and just paying fines? The ultimate way to show a team that you're with them is showing up and being there and just getting in the same page as your teammates to start the season. And so for him, it's a good look if you're trying to get a contract. And again, you still kind of get that blessing in disguise we talked about last week where guys are getting reps. We're going to talk about the Pearsall injury. Well, maybe he's not getting the reps. There's opening the door for Jacob Cowing. He may be picking up those reps that Ayuk and Pearsall being out or leaving behind. So I'm excited to see kind of what this looks like. They didn't announce for sure that he's doing a hold in, so we may wake up tomorrow morning and find out on Bleacher Report and X and all the other media sources that he is practicing, which would be a great sign, obviously. But I'm curious to see if he's actually doing a hold in or practicing. What do you guys think he's going to do?
I hope he's doing a hold in just to be there, like we were talking about. It is a huge impact. It's not really something that you can measure, but him actually being there is a huge difference in him not showing up, right? It shows the team that he's committed to the team. He wants to be a winner, even though he's requested a trade. The contract negotiation thing and the 49er world, John Lynch has always got it done before the start of the season. So there is still a chance that a contract will happen. Again, I don't think they have to. I don't think he has the leverage. They can pay him $15 million this year, and he's going to play. I do think that he is starting to realize that his ability to get the same amount of money as other wide receivers isn't there. And unfortunately for him, he lives in California, so even if the Niners pay him 28, he's going to have to pay a lot of taxes on that. It's not going to be the same as making 28 million in Florida or 28 million in Texas, right? I mean, he's going to get taxed pretty heavily in California. But, at the end of the day, Brandon Aiyuk is trying to create wealth for his family. And that's really what he's trying to do in getting the most money out of the 49ers. Is it what he's worth? Sure. But at the end of the day, him being there is a huge impact on the other receivers, the other rookies. Everyone knows that's new to the Niners that Brandon Aiyuk is a core piece of the team. And so him being there is huge. It's kind of like how Nick Bosa didn't show up last year. It was kind of probably a weird impact for other defensive linemen to have him not be there. So for all the wide receivers and offensive players, having Brandon Aiyuk at least there, they can talk to him, they can meet him, they can get to know him that are, they're new to the Niners. So why would you not want to be friends with or close with Brandon Aiyuk? And so him being there is going to allow that to happen. But again, at the end of the day, Jacob Cowing's going to probably get a lot of reps. Thorne Jennings is going to get more stuff. Deebo Samuels, T.O. Jr. Did he report today? I'm not sure. But I do think that the wide receiver room is going to be really competitive this year. We got a lot of people that are on their last leg and potentially not, on that roster bubble, like Lonnie Bell, stuff like that. I mean, people are going to need to fight for a spot. And with Brandon Aiyuk not being there, they get more reps. It's going to allow us to evaluate them better. And at the end of the day, the Niners are going to be better with him not practicing. I mean, it's just kind of how it works out.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to at least see Aiyuk in the building. At least, albeit he's going to be in shorts and training gear, but at least he's going to be getting those mental reps. And like you guys said, if anything, offering mentorship, soaking in the playbooks, helping the young rookies out. So it could be valuable having him there. But last week we talked about how the reps would get spread out to other players like Cowling or Pearsall, but Pearsall was tagged with a non-football injury today. And fortunately, it didn't sound too serious. It sounded like maybe he would miss the first chunk of training camp, aka like 4 or so days. So nothing too major, but how does that change your feelings now with Pearsall on getting a non-football injury, meaning that it wasn't at the 49er facility?
What makes me nervous is the hammy, right? And so a hammy can get really tricky with the receivers. They're doing a lot of cuts, in and out of breaks, things like that. And so when you have a bad hammy, all it takes is one cut for it to pop. And then if it pops, that's now a season-ending injury, maybe 8 to 10 weeks. That's just not ideal. So you really have to kind of ease them into it. And with the hammy, he can't really get the timing and the reps with Purdy that you're looking for, especially if Ayuk's out, right? We talked about him being able to get the timing down and everything with Purdy and the offense. And I mean, he's kind of a replacement for either Aiyuk or Debo. So if Ayuk's not practicing, he's going to be taking those reps. And with the hammy, he can't take those full speed reps. So what makes me nervous is if it was a core like it was during the mini camp, he can still go full speed, not much limitation there in the route running. With the hammy, it's very dangerous, and it does give me a little like kind of ease knowing that it might be 3 or 4 days, and just kind of has to ease into it. Maybe have a blue jersey on for a few days, but the hammy does make me nervous long term because I think Ryan, you told me before the podcast, it's a reoccurring injury from college, which is never a good thing. But we are Niner fans, and we know Frank Gordon. He did have 2 ACLs in college, and the guy was a workhorse for us. So maybe it is nothing, and he just needs a little time to rehab. But we'll see how it goes. But the Ricky Pearsall hammy injury, now that they kind of announced what it is, makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, I mean, this makes me think of Christian Watson with the Green Bay Packers. He was drafted in the end of the first, early second, and had history of hamstring injuries. First year had hamstring injuries. His ceiling was super high, but again, a hamstring injury for a receiver is something that doesn't really go away, and it will definitely impact him the entire season if it's more serious than a week or two break, right? I mean, if he can get that blue jersey and he's there at training camp at least doing stuff, maybe we can feel a little bit better. But the risk now has been highlighted, and I do hope, obviously, as a 49er fan, that Ricky Pearsall is great and he's fine and he can play. But if he has off and on hamstring injuries and every year he's out for 4 weeks, was it worth the first round pick? I don't know. I think the Niners really did use that first round pick on him solely because if he does become good, you have that 5th-year option, right? You have that same situation with Brandon Aiyuk, where they have this 5th-year option for him versus Debo, where he could, going into his 4th year, he's going to be a free agent next year, and he got the money, he got the bag. Well, if you're a 5th-year player, the only people that get that 5th-year option are first-round draft picks. So I think that's kind of why the Niners did that. They took a receiver solely because of how the receiver market is going, and they don't want to have to pay someone, as much money as they're paying Debo or as much money as they might be paying Aiyuk if they can avoid it, because they know that Brock Purdy's going to command a lot of the upcoming cap space, right? Brock Purdy's going to go from making, I think there was something that Brock Purdy makes like 70th on the QB list. He doesn't even count against the cap space because he's an undrafted free agent, so he makes I think how the cap contract works is your lowest 3 or 4 players don't count against the cap, and those are typically players that are making 700,000 or 800,000 a year.
Top 52. Top 52 kind of gets the cap.
Top 52, and there's 55. So the bottom three don't count against the cap. It's just kind of crazy to think that Brock Purdy's going to go from not counting against the cap to counting about 40 million to 50 million. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. We don't have to get into that today.
55. That's
Yeah, that is a whole nother discussion. But on the same topic of injury news, really quickly, 3 injuries on the PUP list, or 3 players on the PUP list. Drake Jackson, who we're talking last week on the defensive line, having his services back, having him healthy back this season would be tremendous for the 49ers. But we also have 2 really big names that we're kind of still expecting to take some time to recover. Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. Any thoughts or feelings about the PUP list? I know we kind of expected, like I said, Greenlaw and Hufanga, but what about Drake Jackson?
Greenlaw, Hufanga, I honestly did not expect to be fully healthy by week 1. Drake Jackson's a little concerned, but honestly, I'm more excited about Robert Beal than Drake Jackson at this point, especially with the addition of Floyd and the other defensive linemen that we have. We talked about your Tier Gross Matos last week, and I think he can play on the edge a little bit. So Drake Jackson, if he comes out and has a good year after the injury, that'd be like a bonus. Hufanga, we talked about Malik Mustafa. I think he can be his replacement. And so if Hufanga comes back and has a great year, maybe you have a little trade piece in the offseason if Mustafa does play the way we expect him to play. Obviously, Greenlaw is the hardest to replace, in my opinion. We brought in Campbell from the Packers. He's definitely not a Greenlaw type impact player. And I don't know if we have a guy. D. Winters might be that type of player. And so nothing there really surprises me and concerns me, just because I kind of had an idea of where we were going to the season with as a Niners fan. I kind of expected those 3 to not have much of an impact early, kind of ease their way back into the season. So nothing there surprises me much. And I think we kind of have replacements for all 3 of them to kind of fill the void that we're losing.
I think we're safest in the safety room, right? With Mustafa. That guy is a beast. I think his football IQ, like I said it last week, his training camp or his tape film, he was, practicing shirtless. He looked like
DK.
He looked DK. Let's be honest. He looked like DK out there. And I've watched his film. That guy can play. And I don't think we're going to lose a lot of, we're not going to hurt as much. The biggest gap is going to be replacing the linebacker play next to Fred. I'm not sure if D. Winters yet can do it. I do know Fred Warner has stated that D. Winters has had the best offseason out of anyone. Now, D. Winters out of college, came out of TCU. He was an absolute stud. I think he might have been the MVP in one of the bowl games. I love the guy. I thought it was a great draft pick. But for him to make that leap, that's a big step, right? He went from not really playing. It's not like when Greenlaw came in and he started taking over and him and Aziz were playing a little bit more. It was very obvious that Drake Greenlaw is the starter. If D. Winters can do the same thing, we're okay. But that is a huge hole in our defense. I do think our defensive line is much better actually without Drake Jackson. I don't think he's going to be very good. I think that might have been a bust pick. I could be wrong. He could actually have been injured and they just didn't talk about it. And that's why he didn't play. And that happens in the NFL, right? It's a game where it's very physical. People get injured. But Drake Jackson was a second-round pick. And we have not gotten anywhere near second-round value from Drake Jackson. Yatir Gross-Matos, I think, is a better player. At the end of the day, Robert Beal Jr. was what, 5th-round pick? He was a rotational player at Georgia. I don't really know if he can live up to that potential of being a speed edge rusher, being like a poor-man Steve Ford, but
he just has the physical traits.
He's got the physical traits, and we'll find out. But yeah, I think with the pup injuries, the biggest surprise is Drake Jackson. I mean, that guy's been injured for like a year and a half. He didn't play a lot of football last year. He played the first, 2-3 weeks? He had 2 sacks in the first game. Everyone goes, oh, wow, maybe this pick was worth it. Then he got injured. He was gone. there's not a lot of talk about Drake Jackson because the media cares about, the receivers. They care about quarterback stuff. Last year, the whole thing was Brock Purdy is coming back from an injury and Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold for the backup spot. And then, we didn't really hear much about the defensive line. But this year, I do think that we might hear a little bit more about the defense because there's more of a glaring issue there because we're missing a middle linebacker. We're missing a safety. We got new corners. I mean, yes, the Niners are expected to be a top 5 defense again, but there is a lot of variability there. It really just depends on a lot of the new people we brought in. I do think that with people like Malik Collins and Yasir Gross-Matos are going to be able to fill the gap on the D-line, which then kind of ripple effects out into the linebackers being able to do more. That might make Campbell good. Campbell said he's excited to play football again. I mean, he was good a few years ago. Is he going to bring back the hot boys type mentality with Fred Warner and everyone? I mean, we don't know. We're going to find out during preseason. And it's going to be pretty obvious very quick, like which linebackers are there to play. Is it going to be D Winners or is it going to be Campbell or Jalen Graham? We'll find out. But I think we're okay depth-wise at linebacker. I just don't know if they're going to make that step this year, and they need to. This year's the year that, they weren't expecting to play these linebackers this year, right? No one expected Dre Greenlaw to get hurt in the Super Bowl. It was a freak injury. He was running out from the sideline. He tore his Achilles, and coming back from that is also kind of similar to a hamstring where it's risky. If it's rushed, it's risky. And it's a season ender if he's not able to play. So, yeah, for the PUP list, am I worried? Yes. But I do think it's kind of expected, like Ryan said, that I don't think anyone wanted or thought that Drake Greenlaw was going to play until week 6, 7, 8, right? So the PUP is 4 weeks, or is it 6 weeks? I'm not sure. But it's one of those,
6.
and I think it's 6 weeks now. It might be 4, but it's 4, 6, or 8, right? So we're talking about the first half of the season. Whatever it is. And I don't know, I'm a little worried, but again, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Same thing we were talking about for the wide receivers, for those linebackers to make a move. And if D Winners can come up and show that, he can provide the same type of production that he did in college, it's also pretty easy to play linebacker next to a guy like Fred Warner. So we'll find out. But the safety room I feel confident in. We have a lot of depth there. A lot of training camp days and preseason to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, we still a lot to be seen, and I think that's just going to take time. But one thing that I'm not sure if you guys saw some of the headlines today that'll be interesting to see unfold this year is George Kittle. There was news that he lost 30 pounds. Was it last season? And he dropped all the way down to 214 following his core muscle surgery, which is pretty crazy. 30 pounds is a lot of weight to lose, especially for a guy like George Kittle, and to put it all back, pretty insane. I'm not even sure if that's going to have any effect on his performance in the season or in training camp or whatever, but I just thought that was pretty crazy news to see.
I mean, I'll keep it short and sweet on this response. If I'm the NFL and I hear a guy loses 30 pounds and then in 3 months he puts on 30 pounds of muscle, I'm pretty sure George Kittle's going to get a little drug testing going on over the next few months. Random drug tests going on, because I've tried to put on muscle my whole life and it doesn't go that easy. I'd be happy with 10 pounds of muscle in 3 months. Obviously, he's a pro athlete and he's got those genetics, obviously, but the fact that he was able to do that is pretty impressive. I'm sure he ate himself to death there. He was full and he was forcing chicken and steak, and he's got, probably the chefs making him the greatest food he can have. But that's a very impressive recovery from that surgery, let's just say, to be able to add 30 pounds of muscle in 3 months after losing that much. I'm excited to see what he does. I just hope that we don't hear George Kittle suspended for 4 to 6 games because of PED suspicion or whatever it is. So That's my take on that.
I'm gonna chalk it up to the Nashville barbecue. That's what brought him back.
There we go. I like it.
The Nashville barbecue served at tight end U.
Yeah, especially at
tight end
Tight End
U,
U.
yeah.
First of all, let's talk about Tight End U for a little bit. What a great event. They had a bunch of people that fundraised, I think, a few $1 million. I don't know who actually ended up winning their competition between him and Kelsey. And I think there's another tight end to who gets to send the money to the nonprofit. But what an event and what a cool thing that George Kittle has created, right? He's he created tight end month, tight end U. I mean, he's done a lot for the
Tight End Day.
National Tight End Day. I mean, 5 years ago, tight ends were just a thing of the past. They were just side players. I mean, there were some great
extra
tight
offensive
ends.
linemen.
Yeah, extra offensive linemen. Except for people I remember we were growing up with Jeremy Shockey on the Giants. He was the George Kittle of the past. But now George
You're
Kittle's
right.
actually
That's a good
doing
call.
something. He's actually doing something with his fame, his attention, and that's what you want to see out of professional athletes, right? That contribution back to the community and have fun with it. He threw a concert. I think he had 5 or 6 huge country names there because he lives in Nashville. I mean, what an event, and what he's created is pretty awesome. But yeah, to gain 30 pounds of muscle, if he doesn't get randomly drug tested, I'd be surprised.
Ryan, can I ask you a question? Speaking of gaining and rehabbing and things like that, to be able to do that, right? You're coming off an injury. You've experienced an ACL injury, so you have that experience. There's another 49er breaking news this week by Brett Coleman, who has a very credible podcast. Brock Purdy coming off his elbow injury. We thought he was 100% starting the season, right? And then he comes out this week reporting that Brock Purdy was not ready until November. Fully 100% until November. He was still rehabbing, what's that, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks into the season, still fully rehabbing, balling out, leading his team to a number 1 seed. I want to know your impression on Brock Purdy being able to be as effective as he was through the first 8 to 10 weeks of the season rehabbing from an elbow injury. From your perspective as rehabbing from an ACL injury. And then obviously the first game back from him being fully cleared according to the report, they said November, and then December 3rd, he goes out and beats the Eagles by,
the Eagles.
What, 20, 40 points or whatever it was? Something crazy. What's your experience on that, coming back from an injury like that?
Yeah, well, let me just start with that. Purdy aside, anybody who's experienced an injury, all the physicalness aside, doing all the rehab and whatnot, everyone could attest that it's a big mental hurdle that you have to overcome, a lot of confidence that you have to get back. And I can't imagine, especially for a quarterback, confidence is so key too. And when I saw that news, it's just this guy Purdy, man, it's you can't say enough about this guy, which makes me even more excited that he's coming into this season fully healthy, no issues, and lo and behold, he was still rehabbing as the season progressed. So all of that's behind him now. And I really think the sky's the limit for this guy. I know as a Niner fan, it may sound like a homer saying that, but having no injuries and not having any sort of mental blockers and, full confidence, let it sling. I just can't wait to see, what Purdy's going to do. And if anything, it's a statement to how mentally tough this guy is. And what a great leader he is to, put his body on the line every single week and to do all that and to produce. I'm just happy he's our quarterback, and I can't wait to see what he does this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that Brock Purdy was basically put in a situation where Kyle Shanahan probably told him, hey, I know you're not ready, but we need you. We're trading Trey. Sam Darnold is not going to be our starter. To be asked to come back from an injury early is a whole nother kind of pressure. And he already put up with that last year. I mean, there isn't anything that this guy can't handle. Let's just be honest. Brock Purdy is a different type of man. Whether that's his faith in God, his great relationship, his wife, who knows what his supportive cast is, right? At the end of the day, everything adds up, and Brock Purdy is able to handle any type of pressure. Being the starting quarterback for the Niners is a huge national media attention. I know we're not as quote-unquote big as market as New York or the East Coast, but for us on the West Coast, Brock Purdy is a phenom. And yes, I might be a homer for saying that, but I think Brock Purdy is the best quarterback on the West Coast. He might not be the best quarterback.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
That is a really hot take.
That's a hot take. You got Justin Herbert out here. You got a lot.
I'd rather have Brock Purdy than Justin Herbert. That's just my opinion. I
agree with you, but that's a hot take.
It's a hot take. We were watching highlights, and I had mentioned, his scrambling ability is just something so different than most quarterbacks. And he kind of scrambles like Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's almost like he's untouchable in the backfield, or like an early Russell Wilson, where
that's
he
a
could
good
end
call
up
right there, Russell
scrambling,
Wilson.
and it's kind of like that, where like when you watch him play. Okay, so with Jimmy Garoppolo, we didn't have the ability to extend a play. But with Brock Purdy, he extends plays all the time. He does things, when things break down, Brock Purdy can scramble, he can extend the play, his receivers can come back, and then you still get the same
your difference,
benefit.
Thomas. Here's your difference. When Jimmy G scrambled, you were like, oh my God, a pick's coming. Please don't throw a pick, right? When Brock Purdy scrambles, you're like, oh, it's a big play coming right now. It's a big play coming, right? And so the reverse, right? As a Niner fan, when you saw Russell Wilson get out the pocket, you were like, oh, here we go. This is gonna happen again. We're gonna hit DK down the sideline. We're gonna hit so and so down. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who it is. Will Disley. Doesn't matter. If he scrambles, it's dangerous. When Brock Purdy scrambles, he gives opponents the same feeling that Niners fans had when Russell Wilson scrambled against them. That's the bottom line. Because when he scrambles, he's looking downfield. He's not looking to run. And if you give the weapons the Niners have an extra opportunity to make a play and get open, it's just deadly. And it's fun to watch. And so that's a great point right there.
We saw on the Receivers show, Tommy, I'm still not sure if you've seen it yet, so I hope this isn't spoiling it for you or anybody else, but it shouldn't be surprising that our boy Jimmy G was giving Devontae a run for his money over there in Las Vegas, and we can just say he wasn't having the best of times being a receiver out there for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he voiced his opinion.
I have seen highlights of the show around Devontae Adams. I actually wanted to watch the episode first solely to see just how aggravating it was to have a quarterback that can't get the job, or can't get the ball to him, can't get the job done. It's like, how can you not be a quarterback one and get the ball to your wide receiver one? That's just the basics of playing the position. Jimmy G can't extend plays, he can't make throws. And so Brock Purdy is the exact opposite. He extends plays and he can make throws.
So I want to end it maybe on a kind of funner or more fun topic. As you guys have known me for a long time, and you guys can see me on the screen since we're on YouTube now. I'm starting to rock the mustache here. And Tommy knows we have many funny stories dating back to college about facial hair and shaving, but that's stories for another day. What I wanted to bring up was there was 2 mustache sightings. One with head coach Kyle Shanahan. However, his mustache is no longer here as of today, besides the point. And also Nick Bosa rocking the strong mustache. Have you guys seen any of the pictures?
Yeah, I've seen a few of them, and actually, you guys sent a couple of them in our group chat before this, and it just kind of made me laugh, because for those of you that can't grow a mustache, it's a lot of fun. Ryan, I'm glad to see that you can now. It has been a few years, but everyone's life takes a little bit, different path, and some people are born with facial hair at 12 like I am, and others are not. I hope Kyle Shanahan brings a mustache back. I thought it was a clean look. He almost looked like he was like a mafioso, like he looked like he was part of the mob with his slick back hair. He's rocking the the Tommy Marion slick back hair. And I think the mustache is going to be fun. Like, as Nick Bosa brings it in, I'm curious to see what other players start rocking a mustache on the Niners.
Ryan, I will say it must be some of that dad bod vibe going. Mustache. Don't get the lower half dad bod, but the upper half dad bod. I don't know if we're breaking news here on the Niner Station, but it's a good look on you, Ryan. And I think both guys in the Niners that are rocking the mustache, that's a really good look. I think Bosa rocks it. I think Bosa could rock really anything when you're shredded like a Greek god like he is. But I think Shanahan pulled it off really well. They talk about in the press conference today, his wife really liked the mustache, but he shaved it because he didn't want to hear the comments about it. He old school Shanahan, right? I want no distractions. I want football. I don't need to be hearing about my mustache. But I think mustache Shanahan's a good look, and I think here on the Niner Station we should start the rally cry for mustache playoff Shanahan. When they make the playoffs this year, Shanahan needs to rock the mustache. That might bring him out of his conservative ways at the end of football games and just allow him to just open up the playbook and let it rip. And so I think the mustache look is a good look for both of them.
Yeah,
You.
it'll be a symbolic gesture for Shanahan, if anything, that he's going to break out of his conservative ways for playoffs and just open it up.
I do kind of like that. It'd be fun for media to have mustache Shanahan, right, as a different version. Because you're right. I mean, he has unfortunately for us, unfortunately for Shanahan, he has a history of blowing playoff games where all of a sudden, second half, third quarter, he stops running the ball. He stops doing what worked in the first three quarters or at the end of the game. He stops doing what worked. He starts playing conservative. That's not how the Niners should play an offense this year, and I really do hope between a combination of Brock Purdy being healthy and Shanahan realizing that he needs to change his ways at the end of the game, especially with the lead, that we can get a little bit. And if it's the mustache, I'm all for it. I'll bring mine back.
Hey, I'll rock a playoff mustache. I'm down for that.
But, I think we're going to keep it short and sweet, guys. I know that everyone's got a lot to do, and thanks for listening if you made it this far. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on any type of social media that you can, Instagram, Spotify, wherever you do choose to listen to podcasts. But, thanks again to everyone for making it this far and being a fan and supporter of the Niners Station as we are putting in work here to bring you a different perspective than the general media. So with that, guys, I guess I have to do it. Bang, bang.
Niner gang.
Niner gang.
All right.